Good evening and welcome once again to another edition of the Truth Hour. My name is Johnny Guzman. As always, a pleasure to be here on this Monday, June the 4th, 2012. Well, tonight's topic, Venus transit. What does this wonderful planet bring to our existence here on Earth? And for that, we've asked our good friend Santos Bonacci from Australia, who will be talking about this and giving us his in-depth look at this Venus transit and what does it mean to the Earth and to the people here on this Earth. Before we start, just a quick reminder to send us your invitations to Facebook. You can find us as qlpmultimedia.com. And of course, to see all of our previous programs, you can go to our YouTube channel, QL Television. Okay, good evening, Santos, and welcome once again to the Truth Hour.
Oh, thank you, Johnny.
Santos, tonight's topic, the Venus transit. What does the Venus transit mean to us here on Earth? It's such a rare occurrence that only occurs, I believe, twice every 128 years. And the last time that this occurred was in June of 2004. And now here we are again. This is going to happen, I believe, tomorrow, between the 5th and the 6th, for a second time. And from then on, the next time that this will happen will be the year 2133. So unless some of us find the immortality gene, I don't think we're going to be around. So let's begin with that. What does this mean, Santos, that this planet is going to line up with the sun and the earth? And what is this going to happen to us here on Earth? Santos.
Okay, well, I'd like to discuss aspects of the Venus transit that rarely get discussed because people deal with it very astronomically rather than astrologically. Last time these transits, these two 8-year transits occurred was when Thomas Edison invented the light globe. So the lights were switched on, so to speak. And there was a lot of fuss about the Venus transit in the 1870s, 1875 and then 1883, 8 years after. So 1875 and 1882, that was the last time this happened. And there was a lot of fuss. They had astronomers all over the world ready, prepared to record this because they wanted to know the exact distance of the Earth from the sun. And they worked it out 149 million kilometers. And they did that by studying the parallax, the triangular lines that come from watching the Venus transit. And they went to all over the world. There was a big expedition that went to Hawaii to record this in the 1870s. And they ascertained the distance from the Earth to the sun because of that. Now, these days, what's happening with Venus is it's the return of, you see, Venus is known as phosphorus, the bright morning star, or the evening star as Hesperus. Now, Venus has been in the West for a long time now. After the transit, she will return to the east as the morning star. And she's also associated with Jesus, the Jesus figure, because Jesus is the bright morning star. Remember, in Revelation, he calls himself the bright morning star. And that has to do with Venus. But what it means essentially is that it's the return of the Christ, or Kukulkan, as the Mayans call it. Kukulkan is returning. You see, when Venus goes across the path of the sun, that's an ecliptic. That's an eclipse. We call it a transit, but it's basically just an eclipse, like the one that happened 2 weeks ago with the moon. The moon eclipsing, the annular eclipse, eclipsing the sun. That's what Venus is doing. It's very rare. Now, it's interesting where it is happening. You see, the Venus transits happen either in Taurus or in Scorpio, the opposite. Now, I just want to show you this on the whiteboard. So let's see if we can get rid of that shadow. Is that... No, that's not good, is it? Okay. I'll try to work. Okay, let's go like that. Here is Taurus. As you can see, Taurus, this is the ecliptic. This is the path of the sun. So the sun is traveling on the ecliptic, and Gemini will be over here. This is Taurus. This is all of Taurus here. So Venus has been coming along here. She goes through the Pleiades. That's the Pleiades. And she goes to one of the top stars in the horns of Taurus. This is the Hyades. There's the Pleiades. There's the Hyades. The Hyades is basically the head of the bull, and that's the red star called Aldebaran, the eye of the bull. Okay, and these are the horns of the bull. So she hits this horn, and then she goes back. She's going backwards now, and she's going past the sun. That's June the 5th. That's where we are now. So basically what we've got, is that better like that? Yeah. Okay. So as Venus has been coming along here, she goes past the Pleiades, she hits this horn, she goes backwards, she retrogrades, she goes all the way back to Taurus. I'll have to use the black here. She goes all the way back to Taurus, she goes through the eye of the bull, and then she goes past the other horn and she goes into Gemini. That's the retrograde here, from here to here. And this is where the eclipse occurs, or the transit. Now, interesting to note that all of this occurs in Taurus. Now, Taurus is in the head. Aries is here, the top of the head. Everything starts with Aries at the top of the head. Pisces is at the feet. So Taurus is the neck and most of the bottom part of the head. So really, Venus's true home, because Venus rules Taurus. In astrology, Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So this is her home. And Mars is the ruler of Aries. So Mars is up here and Venus is here. And all of this is occurring, this transit, in the head. Now, Orion is also here. Orion is one of the constellations of Taurus. And Orion is also in the head, and it has to do with the optic thalamus, the one that sees, the eye in the middle of the eyes. So what Venus is doing is she's actually awakening that part of mankind. She's going to switch the lights on, you see, like she did when Thomas Edison discovered the light globe in the last transit of Venus. And because all of this is occurring, all of Taurus and all of this is occurring in the head, you see, when you understand the microcosm of the macrocosm, as above, so below. So it's basically an activation. It's an activation of the higher consciousness. And we go to the heart. What this means is, you see, the cerebellum, the small brain, is the sector of Taurus, and the cerebrum, the two hemispheres of the cerebrum, they belong to Aries. Now, the cerebellum is actually the true heart. That's the heart center. That's where the man thinketh. As a man thinketh, so he is in his heart, you see. So Venus is transiting the heart and the optic thalamus, basically, in Taurus, and reactivating the higher consciousness. So we can look forward to the lights turning on from now on, and mankind will be living in the heart and in the higher consciousness, out of the solar plexus, and we have been moved up and activated in the head. And that's a racial thing, and we will experience it individually on different levels, but as a race, there's going to be some big changes.
Santos,
Big changes.
Santos. Also, there's going to be in that movement of Venus in that transit. It's also forming a perfect pentagram, right? The pentagram being one of the symbols of Venus, as well as the five petal flower. So all these things happening. A pentagram, a flower, the five petal flower. Being in the house in its same in its home in Taurus, and I mean this has got to be important. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just to think about this. Here I'm gonna show an image here of how it will form a perfect pentagram. Okay, go ahead, Santos. You could also.
Yeah, well, what I was going to show was Venus actually does the pentagram every 8 years. That's not unusual. Every 8 years, Venus scribes a pentagram in the sky in relation to the Earth. You see, you have the sun here, and then you have Mercury going around, then you have Venus going around, and then you have the Earth going around. So Venus takes 225 days to go around the sun. So if she takes off here, and she takes 225 days to go around the sun, we know that the Earth takes 365 to go around in its orbit. I won't say around the sun because they don't actually go around the sun. They follow the sun in their orbits as the sun travels through the heavens. They are following behind the sun, you see. And this is what science does not allow us to acknowledge. Science is sticking to the Copernicus theory of all the planets going around on the same plane virtually around the sun. This is erroneous, totally erroneous. But anyway, if the Earth takes 365 days to go around in its orbit, and Venus takes 225, well, if you count 365 days for Venus, Venus will be over here when we get back to here. So we take 365 days to do one. Venus is here at the same point at 225 days. So if you add an extra amount to reach from 225 days to 365 days, Venus will be over here somewhere. You see? So you see there's a quite a bit of distance between. So what happens is this. Is you get, there will be the sun, and you get Venus doing this. Every 8 years. You see? So we go around 8 years, she's gone around 13 years. 8, 13, these are Fibonacci numbers. 5, 8, 13, this is all Fibonacci or phi. Okay, which is phi is that symbol in Greek. That's phi. So what we have is a relationship between the Earth of 1.61 and Venus 1.61. That's phi. That's Fibonacci. And Fibonacci, the Fibonacci ratio is here. You see, if this is 1, if this portion here of the pentagram is 1, then from here to here is 1.618. 1.618. So you see, here's 1, and here's 1.618. And so all of this, all of the pentagram, the whole pentagram is all about Fibonacci and phi and the golden ratio. So that's why it's so important. Venus and Earth, the relationship is quite amazing. It gives our bodies all the proportions that we have. In fact, that's all of the planets, and Copernicus was aware of this. All of them have to do with the Fibonacci ratio. All of their relationships. There you go.
Now, Santos, why is this the Fibonacci numbers, that the sequence of numbers? I'm not clear on that. You know, you lost me a little bit. I'm sure if you lost me, you probably lost a few of the people that are listening to us.
Yep.
Clarify that a little bit more. How is the relation between the Fibonacci sequence of numbers important in this pentagram and in this movement of Venus? How does that affect us? I'm not clear on that.
All right. Good question. So the Fibonacci spiral, and you've got that. You've got a picture of that. Can you put that up for the listeners, please?
Yes.
That
Yes.
Fibonacci spiral. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So what it is the relationship of 1 to 1.618. Now, doubling is 1 to the number 2. So you've got 1 plus 1 equals 2. That's doubling. You double 2, you get 4. So this is the sequence that you get with doubling. You get 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Now, with this ratio, this is a different ratio. That's not doubling. It's not quite. 1.6 is not quite double. It's not quite 2, is it? It's 1.6. So it's far less than doubling. So it's not nature is nature is not always doubling. So with this ratio, you get 1 plus 1 equal 2, and then you double these two numbers. 1 and 2 equal 3, and then 2 and 3 equal 5, and then 3 and 5 equal 8, and then 13. Remember I showed you before that 8 and 13 are Fibonacci numbers? Because what you do is you always add the numbers. You add the two previous numbers to get the next number. So 1 and 1 equals 2. 1 and 2 equal 3. 2 and 3 equal 5. And so on and so forth. So here you've got 8 as 20, 21, 34, 55. So these are Fibonacci numbers. They're not actually growing at a doubling rate like this one. It's a softer rate. It's a very, very softer curve. That's why you have that Fibonacci curve. And you'll find that everywhere in our body, for instance, this part of the finger, for instance, that's 1, okay, and this part of the finger is 1.618. So it's not doubled, but it's a softer rate of growth. And then if you get this part here as 1, this part here, which is longer, is 1.618. And the same thing happens here. If you make this 1, this will be 1.618. And then if you get this as 1, this part here will be 1.618. You see, here's from here to the tip of my fingers is 1, and from here to my elbow is 1.618. So you see, the Fibonacci ratio is all through my hand. Also, the belly button. The belly button is from the top of the head to the belly button. If you measure that as 1, from the belly button to the feet, will be exactly 1.618 in every human being.
Wow, that's never thought about it like that. Excellent. I mean, you clarified it. So now
Yeah,
our body is distributed. Let's just say in that sequence 1.68, and this movement of Venus in the skies in the stars will be moving in that same ratio. Is that correct?
absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
And all the other planets also. It's just that
Hmm.
Venus is more, it's just strikingly, observable and patent. With Venus, we can see the relationship of Fibonacci. It's so striking. But um, when you also factor in Mercury, remember, every 13 orbits of Venus is equivalent to every 8 orbits of the Earth every 8 years. So you see, the transit cycle of Venus, the pentagram cycle of Venus is every 8 Earth years. So every 8 Earth years, Venus does 13 of her years. Well, Mercury does, guess how many? 34. 8, 13, 34. It's all Fibonacci. It's all Fibonacci. See, if our body's doubled, well, my finger, this part of my finger would be exactly the same size as that part of my finger, and this part would be exactly the same as this part here. You see, but they all grow. It all unfurls in that Fibonacci cycle. So Venus is very important because she teaches us the golden, what Pythagoras and Plato called the golden mean, the golden section, or the golden ratio. It's the golden ratio. And Leonardo da Vinci, in his paintings, he always incorporated the golden ratio. All artists, all scientists, all mathematicians, astronomers of note have paid attention to that ratio. Without that ratio, you just can't understand anything in this solar system, because it's all, even the galaxies. You see those spiral galaxies. You have a look at the arms of those galaxies, the way they unfold. They all unfurl at the Fibonacci ratio. The curve is 1.618. It doesn't double. In fact, you've got um, seashells that have that. They have that growth in them. They have their little this curve. If it doubled, seashells would be like, they would go like this. Um, it'll just double. The double rate would just be unnatural. It would unfurl too quickly and too much of an angle. But see, this beautiful curve, we see it everywhere. We see it in the pine cone. The pine cone usually has one little cone at the top, and then it'll have 2, and then it'll have 3, and then it'll have 5, and then it'll have 8, and then 13, and then 21, and even trees. You see the trunk of the tree as it comes up like that. You'll see a lot of, for instance, many trees like bamboo and other trees. You'll see that they have rings that grow in the Fibonacci. This will be 1. This is 1.618. They don't double. There's no doubling in nature, really. It all unfolds in that sequence, you see. And this is why Venus is so important. This transit is so important. It only happens. The Mayans are very interesting. They had their 2 calendars. They linked the lunar with the solar calendar. The lunar calendar was 260 days, 9 months. They always went by that 260-day calendar. That's 9 months because of the human gestation period, you see. But they also linked it with the solar calendar of 365 days. You see, so they had the two gears going around each other. Every 52 years, they would link up. They would zero in on the same point. Well, if you double 52, you come to 104. And the Mayans taught that the Venus transit was averaged out to 104 years. I think you mentioned 120 years before, but it's actually closer to 104, Johnny.
From
Ah,
what
yeah,
from what I
128. Yep.
from what I heard, it was 128, and it happens twice every 8 years. What's interesting too now in that movement, right? That I just showed the picture before, and you were drawing it as an example with the shell. That same movement, which I'm putting right now, it resembles the heart, right? It resembles the heart. So it's as is making his movement, it's making little hearts, which is part of another characteristic of Venus, right? Love. So that when I saw that, I mean, it just kind of blew my mind. I think all these things is happening, and in an essence is also drawing an organ that's within our body, as you always mention. So it's above, so it's below. And interesting concept of how everything is just 1.618. Never thought of it like that, but fantastic. Now, Santos, let's take a quick break, but when we come back, what should we do during this time tomorrow? Well, for you, it will be this morning, right? In a couple more hours. Well, later on in the day, because it's between the 5th and the 6th of June. But for us, it's the 4th, so we still have another day to go. So what can we do during this time to absorb and to receive this energy during this time? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want you to share that with us, Santos, okay? Okay, and we're back. We're speaking to Santos Bonacci, and tonight's topic is the Venus transit. And what does this mean to us, and what will it do to us here on the Earth? A very good explanation by Santos. Santos, okay, so the key question here is tomorrow for us and tonight for you, what do we do to absorb this energy? Do we think about this process? Do we look at it? Do we get into a meditative state? What do we do so that our audience can, now that I think they have a clear picture of what this means, what can they do to be more conscious of this and to absorb this wonderful energy that's coming in just a couple hours? Santos.
Well, it's time to contemplate your spiritual essence, your divinity. It's not time to pay attention to any of the illusions. Lose the illusions. Lose the material connection that you have with which anchors you to this system, this world. This world is a system which pulls you in the opposite direction of your divinity, and it does that through commerce. It does that through all of its illusions and distractions. It's time to shed all that like a serpent. Kukulkan is the serpent, you see, and Venus is that serpent. She's the most prominent part of that serpent, Quetzalcoatl. She's the feathered serpent, you see, and she's returned. It's the return of the Christ. It's the return of the higher consciousness. Venus dwells here in the cerebellum. That's the heart. So Venus is making a connection with the heart. We now go into the heart of Venus. Venus has called us back home. She's saying to us, it's time for you now to raise your vibration. It's time for you to go into the heart, this is the heart. It's the higher mind. The heart is the higher mind. The lower mind, or the subconscious or the unconscious, is the solar plexus. That's what we have to now shed. We have to climb up above that. And of course, remember the lunar transit, which we call the eclipse that happened 2 weeks ago. The moon is the mother. She's the generative mother. And Venus is also like the spiritual mother. It's a different kind of mother, but she is the embodiment of love. Venus is all about love, human love, and because of the pentagon and the pentagram is totally a human shape. It's in the DNA. The DNA bonds. The DNA are joined together by the hydrogen bonds, which are pentagonal and hexagonal. So these are human shapes, you see, and Venus embodies this. So it's a calling to the enlightened portion of mankind to raise their energy above the material and to shed the illusions and now embrace the new consciousness that is coming. That's the portal. Venus is the portal. That transit is the new. It's the opener of the way to the age of Aquarius, where humanity will be more humane toward one another, where justice will rule and prevail, and where loving communities will be established. So it's no use climbing the corporate ladder anymore. That's gone. It's forever gone. Keeping up with the Joneses, it's finished. It's totally and utterly finished. Anyone who continues in that path, which we've been in for hundreds and thousands of years, say at least 3,000 years, anyone who does that will be considered a fool and will just stab themselves with many pains. As the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil, and it's money that people are chasing. Venus is calling us away from that path. She's calling us to a higher path. This is the higher calling, the return of Kukulkan.
Santos, so but do we do some type of personal ritual? Do we look at to see if we can see it with our eyes? Because I'm sure that not in every country you'll be able to see it, right? Or you'll be able to catch some of a little bit of it. I don't know how would it be in Australia. Would you guys be able to see the whole movement of Venus getting in front of the sun?
I don't think so. I believe that we're going to miss out on that. Um, I'm pretty sure we are actually. The Asian countries are going to be the ones that benefit the most from it. But I might be wrong. Um, but what should we do? I think we should turn to inside. We should go within. Meditation is the answer. Meditation is what harmonizes all the unbalanced frequencies that are in our bodies. The proper breathing, going within, withdrawing from the world, withdrawing from the world completely. There's a great scripture in the Bible that says, "He that loves the world and the things in the world cannot love the Father." The Father is the Spirit. You see, Venus is the physical part of this transit, and the sun that she's going past, that's the Father. That's the spiritual. The sun has always been the spiritual focal point of the solar system, and all the planets are the magnetic brides of the bridegroom. He is the bridegroom, Jesus Christ. And Venus is the one that reminds us of that spiritual quest of humanity, the spiritual quest of going into the higher mind and salvation. Salvation comes from the word salt. And another word of salt, another part of the word salt, salvation, means to raise the salt in the body. The salt is the beautiful oil that is in the cerebrospinal system. In the cerebrospinal system, there is an oil that is produced in the cerebrum, and it goes all the way down to the sacrum, and it must travel all the way back up to activate the dormant brain cells. Well, that's where Venus is. She's the gateway to the cerebrum, and she's passing through the sun in the transit, and she's activating that part of the brain, which is the optic thalamus. And that salt, that oil, is called Christ, Christos in Greek. And so once we return that oil up to the head, back to the cranium, right? What happens is when those dormant brain cells activate, a halo appears. A halo. Halo comes from halos. Halos means salt. You know, when you say hello, all right, hello is a salutation. Salud. Salud comes from salt. You know what salud means in Spanish? It means health. So, hello, halo, salt, salvation, salutation. In my language, in Italian, when we greet someone, we say salve, hello, because they both come from salt. So this word halo, halos, which is salt, means that one has returned the salt to the head and one is saved. Salvation. So Venus is the portal to this salvation. So it's very important to go within and align those vibrations that are discordant in the body, and we have many. Believe you me, dis-ease is the opposite of ease. If you have ease in your body, see, a lot of people are suffering with stomach acid, arthritis, asthma, and all of these diseases. Disease comes about from one thing, and that's imbalance in the body, imbalance of the vibrations. And to set those vibrations back in harmony, meditation is crucial, and the diet is crucial too, and a knowledge of the 12 inorganic cell salts, very important. I would be studying this book here by George Carey, Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation. Salt, salvation. by George W. Carey and Inez Eudora Perry. Now, I have presented so much. I have presented so much information from these two writers. My YouTube presentation called "Your Body is the Holy Land" virtually comes from this book, which is the same writer, dealing with that salt of salvation and how we can save our bodies. And when you balance out those 12 cell salts in the body, you can cure any disease in your body, because there's only one way that that disease enters into the body, and that is an imbalance of the 12 inorganic cell salts. And this is true science. This is true science that the medical scientific world today will not acknowledge, because they treat the symptoms rather than curing the causes. The causes are imbalance of the 12 cell salts. And once you have all those salts in the body is balanced, and you can actually live forever in physical incarnation. You can rejuvenate the body and become young again.
Santos, but what do we tell folks? Like, for example, we have family members who I mean, speaking for myself, and I'm sure a lot of our audience as well, they're sort of like borderline, you know, they don't buy this completely. They're still kind of stuck in the material world, and they're still stuck in their everyday nonsense, but yet they still want to listen to some of this stuff, and probably they won't go into a meditative state, or do a small ritual or whatever. But what can we tell them to do, or just how do we tell them so they can understand? In other words, are they still going to get affected even though they're not conscious of it? Or if they're not conscious of this transit of Venus, are they just going to be left sort of like behind? How do we tell this to someone who's borderline in paying attention to this stuff, Santos?
That's a tough question, Johnny, because that's one of the things that really disturbs my peace. To see so many people sleeping, it's really sad. But all things are taken care of by the loving universe, and those ones eventually will return to the higher consciousness. It's only a matter of time. But you can probably just suggest for them to be more loving. They understand love, because they don't connect to the word consciousness, because obviously they're unconscious. It's like trying to tell, try to get a kindergarten child and you put him into tertiary education. They will never benefit from the tertiary education. It'll just go straight over their heads, because they're still playing with blocks and doing hand paintings and things like that. Not that they're dumb, but they haven't developed. They haven't developed or everything that needs developing, you see. So what we have is a chronic situation on the planet where a good portion of humanity are still unconscious. They're intelligent, they show a lot of intelligence for sure. But when it comes to understanding the spiritual nature that they struggle. But I think for these folks, we need to set an example of love, I guess. It's no use speaking because they don't understand. And I find that quite a lot. I find, so-called, in my daily interactions with people, I connect with people a lot when I do my street performances, you see. I go to the city of Melbourne, right in the heart of the city, and I play my guitar. During the breaks, I get to talk to people. And sometimes churchgoers come by my music, and I speak to them. And the subject of the higher consciousness and this the true concept of salvation is just beyond them. In fact, they refuse to listen and they just walk off. There's a severe case of indoctrination where people are waiting for someone to save them. When you wait for something to save you, it's not going to happen. So how to get that message across to people? I don't know. I imagine that you need to do it on a one-to-one basis. Each individual is a case on its own. I mean, you can only try. What can you do? You can only try, Johnny. If you're conscious now and you're awakened, well, you've earned that. You've earned the right to be, and you've arrived at that certain point of consciousness. So enjoy it for yourself. Be happy that you're there, that you've arrived. Whoever is enjoying the higher consciousness right now, I would just say to them, enjoy it for yourself and keep going within and keep meditating and bringing that beautiful oil up, up, up. Because the moment that oil returns to the optic thalamus, new blood is produced in the body. You see, all disease occurs because the blood is poisoned. We're all walking around with poisoned blood. There's a lot of poisons in the blood, a lot of toxins. But when you return that oil through much effort and diligence, when you return it to the optic thalamus, new blood is produced in the body and you get rejuvenated and it cures all your diseases. This is what the Bible is referring to when it says that Jesus turns water into wine. You see, that oil is considered as water until such time as it returns to the optic thalamus. And then it's turned into wine, good wine. That's the new blood that is generated in the body. We have to keep generating fresh blood. Blood is the soul. It's in the soul, and the oil is in the blood. That is your soul living. Once that dries up, you die. You see, so the soul is considered to be the body or the fluids in the body. Either one. Take your pick. But to save the soul, you have to go through the process of salvation, salination, And this is why the French, when they greet you, they say salut. Why would they say salt when they greet you? And why would the English world say hello? Hello comes from halos, the Greek word for salt. And you get other light words such as halogen, hallucination. It's all has to do with the salt that creates the halo of salvation.
Very, very well said, Santos. Always a pleasure to hear your fantastic wisdom and to understand this concept now, especially with this Venus transit. So important for us to capture this and to understand, and hopefully we can share it with our loved ones who probably are maybe not too awakened. But I think that's a good suggestion that you said, just at least share with them to be more loving during this next 2 days or so. Santos Bonacci, thank you very much, my friend. I will see you on Wednesday for another edition of The Truth Hour. Thank you, Santos.
Thank you.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you again for being here tonight. And again, an advice that we can give you, as you heard Santos say, try to transmit as much love as possible in these 2 days. And if you are conscious of this, such important transit as Venus is going to be doing in just for us here in another day or so, to understand this concept and to absorb as much of this wonderful energy that we'll be receiving from this wonderful planet. Have a good night. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow for another edition of The Truth Hour in Spanish, La Hora de la Verdad. Take care.